In a small roadside diner, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit suddenly dropped to his knees before an ordinary waitress, his voice shaking. "Please, marry me." The entire restaurant fell silent. No one expected the man to be a billionaire, a famous single father who could buy the entire diner chain with just one signature. But what shocked people even more was the girl's reaction. She didn't agree, didn't refuse immediately, but made a demand that left the billionaire's face pale. What had she asked for? Daniel Carter sat in the corner booth of Rosie's diner, his phone pressed to his ear, while his daughter drew silent pictures across the table. The call was important. They were all important. Merger talks, stock evaluations, board meetings that determined the futures of thousands of employees. His company didn't build itself. Someone had to carry the weight. Across from him, Lily worked her crayons across the paper without making a sound. She was 6 years old and hadn't spoken to a stranger in 3 years. Not at school. Not at the therapy appointments that cost more per hour than most people made in a week. Not anywhere that mattered. The diner was nothing special. Vinyl booths, checkerboard floors, coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning. Daniel had stopped here by accident 2 weeks ago, when Lily refused to eat at the restaurants his assistant usually booked. Something about this place made her willing to sit still. That was enough. The waitress approached their table with a notepad. She looked tired in the way people who work double shifts always do. Her dark hair pulled back, her uniform clean but worn at the edges. She glanced at Daniel, still on his phone, then down at Lily. The little girl had stopped drawing. Her hands were frozen over the paper, her eyes fixed on the table. The waitress crouched down until she was level with the child's face. Her voice came out soft, nothing forced about it. "Would you like to draw me something?" Lily's head snapped up. Most adults talked over her or around her, their voices too loud, their smiles too wide. This woman just waited, her expression open but not expectant. Daniel ended his call mid-sentence. He watched his daughter's face, looking for the signs, the retreat, the shutdown, the way Lily disappeared inside herself when the world got too loud. But Lily didn't pull away. Her fingers tightened around the red crayon, and after a long moment, she slid the paper toward the waitress. The woman studied the drawing. A house, a tree, 2 stick figures, one tall and one small. No color except the red crayon Lily had been holding. "This is beautiful," the waitress said, and Daniel could tell she meant it. Not the automatic praise people gave children, but real attention. She pointed to the smaller figure. "Is this you?" Lily nodded once, a tiny movement. "And this must be your dad." The waitress glanced up at Daniel, then back to the drawing. "He looks like he takes good care of you." Daniel felt a tightness in his throat that he couldn't name. Lily hadn't drawn him in months, not since the accident, not since Sarah. The waitress stood and pulled a fresh set of crayons and clean paper from her apron pocket. "These are my favorites," she said, setting them down gently. "Maybe you can make something beautiful." Lily reached for the blue crayon. Her small hand closed around it, and she started to draw. Daniel stared. In 18 months of therapy and countless attempts by specialists and counselors, no one had gotten his daughter to engage this quickly, this easily. The waitress straightened and finally looked at him directly. Her eyes were green, sharp in a way that suggested she saw more than people wanted her to. "What can I get you?" Daniel ordered without thinking. "Coffee. A grilled cheese for Lily." The waitress wrote it down and left without small talk, without performing the usual dance service workers did around men in expensive suits. When she walked away, Lily kept drawing. Blue sky, green grass, yellow sun. Colors his daughter hadn't used since her mother died. They returned a week later. Then 3 days after that. Then twice in 1 week. The waitress, whose name tag read Emma, brought Lily fresh paper and crayons without being asked. She refilled Daniel's coffee without interrupting when he was working. She existed in their space without demanding anything from it. On their 5th visit, Daniel stayed after Lily finished eating. He closed his laptop and looked across the table at Emma, who was wiping down the counter nearby. "She doesn't usually warm up to people," he said. Emma glanced over at Lily, who was coloring in the corner booth. "Maybe because I don't treat her like a puzzle to solve," Emma said. Her tone wasn't unkind, just matter of fact. "She's just a little girl who needs to feel safe." The words landed harder than they should have. He gave Lily everything. The best therapists, Dr. Rachel Steinberg, who had a waiting list 6 months long, a full-time nanny who had trained in childhood psychology. "I give her everything," he said, and immediately regretted how defensive it sounded. "The best therapists. The best." Emma turned to face him fully. Her expression wasn't judgmental, but it wasn't soft either. "Sometimes kids don't need the best of everything," she said quietly. "They just need you." The words hit him like a physical blow. Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. No one talked to him this way. No one dared. Emma picked up her tray and walked toward the kitchen, leaving him sitting there with the weight of what she'd said. That night, Daniel sat in Lily's room watching her sleep, her hand curled around the stuffed rabbit Sarah had given her. They had argued the morning of the accident about his schedule, about another missed dinner, another broken promise. Sarah had been crying when she left to pick up Lily from school. Daniel had been on a conference call when he got the news about the crash. He had failed his wife, and now he was failing his daughter, throwing money at a problem that money couldn't fix. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel and Lily came to the diner regularly. Emma brought Lily her crayons, brought Daniel his coffee, moved through their space with quiet efficiency. Then one evening, another customer knocked over a water glass near their booth. It shattered on the floor, the sound sharp and sudden. Lily's entire body went rigid. Her eyes went wide, her breathing quick and shallow. Daniel recognized the signs immediately. The crash, the memory, the trauma that no amount of therapy had been able to fully touch. Before he could move, Emma was there. She crouched down and placed one hand gently on Lily's shoulder, her voice low and steady. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just water. You're safe. I'm here." She didn't grab Lily, didn't overwhelm her with touch or words. She just stayed close, a solid presence, until the panic started to fade from the little girl's eyes. Lily's breathing slowed, her hands unclenched, and then she did something that made Daniel's vision blur. She leaned into Emma's shoulder and stayed there. His daughter hadn't let anyone hold her since Sarah died. Not him. Not the nanny. Not Dr. Steinberg, with all her training and credentials. But she let Emma. That night, Daniel came back to the diner after closing. Emma looked surprised when she unlocked the door, but she let him in. "How do you do it?" he finally asked, his voice rough. "Make her feel safe." Emma set down her cleaning rag and looked at him directly. "I don't try to fix her," she said simply. "I just let her know she's enough as she is." A weight pressed down on Daniel's chest. "I couldn't save my wife," he said, the words coming out before he could stop them. "And now, I can't even reach my daughter." Emma's expression softened, but she didn't look away. "You're still here," she said. That's what matters. For the first time in 3 years, Daniel felt seen. Not as the CEO of Carter Industries, not as the billionaire who could solve any problem with enough money, just as a father who was terrified of failing the only person he had left. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Daniel brought Lily to the diner after her appointment with Dr. Steinberg. The anniversary of Sarah's death was approaching, and Lily's anxiety had been building for days. Daniel could see it in the way she held herself, in the dark circles under her eyes. They sat in their usual booth, Emma brought them water without being asked. Daniel tried to focus on his laptop, but he kept glancing at Lily. Her hands were shaking. Then, without warning, his daughter started to hyperventilate. Her breathing came in short, desperate gasps. Her face went pale. She pushed back from the table, her whole body trembling, tears streaming down her face without sound. Daniel's training vanished. All the techniques Dr. Steinberg had taught him, all the strategies he'd memorized, none of it mattered. His hands shook as he reached for her. "Lily, baby, it's okay. It's okay." But she couldn't hear him. She was somewhere else, trapped in the memory of the crash, in the moment when her mother's car spun out on the wet road and everything stopped. Emma appeared beside them. She didn't panic, didn't rush. She simply knelt down in front of Lily and took the girl's small hands in hers. "Lily, look at me," Emma said, her voice calm and sure. "Breathe with me. In, out. You're okay. I promise you're okay." She demonstrated, breathing slowly and deliberately. Lily's panicked eyes found Emma's face and locked on. "That's it," Emma said softly. "Just like that. In, out." Gradually, Lily's breathing slowed. Her body stopped shaking. The terror in her eyes began to fade, replaced by exhaustion. Emma pulled the little girl into her arms and started humming something low and gentle. A lullaby, maybe. Something that sounded like safety. Lily collapsed against her, all the tension draining away. And then, so quietly Daniel almost missed it, his daughter whispered 2 words she hadn't spoken to anyone outside their home in 3 years. "Don't leave." Emma's arms tightened around her. She looked up at Daniel, and something passed between them that he couldn't name. "I'm not going anywhere," Emma said. Daniel stood there, watching his daughter find comfort in the arms of a woman who was practically a stranger, and the locked door inside him finally gave way. Lily needed Emma. And maybe, he was starting to realize, so did he. That night, after taking Lily home and watching her fall asleep easier than she had in months, Daniel drove back to the diner. It was late. Only a handful of customers remained. He waited until Emma finished her shift. She looked surprised when she stepped outside and found him standing by his car. "Daniel, it's late. Is Lily—" "She's fine," he said quickly. "She's asleep. I needed to talk to you." Emma crossed her arms, waiting. Daniel had rehearsed this in his car, had tried to find the right words, the logical argument. But standing here in the parking lot under the flickering streetlight, everything he'd planned vanished. "My daughter needs you," he said. The words came out raw, unpolished. "I need you." "Emma, I know this sounds insane, but—" He got down on one knee, right there on the cracked asphalt of the diner parking lot. A few remaining customers visible through the window stopped and stared. "Please marry me." Emma's face went completely still. "I can give you anything," Daniel continued, the words spilling out. "A house, security, whatever you want. Just please, be part of our lives. Help me save my daughter." The silence stretched out between them. A car drove past on the main road. Finally, Emma shook her head. Her voice when she spoke was steady, but there was something underneath it. Sadness, maybe, or disappointment. "Daniel, you're not proposing because you love me." She said it like a statement of fact, not an accusation. "You're proposing because you're terrified," she continued. "I won't be a band-aid for your pain, and I won't be a replacement mother you can hire." Daniel felt the words hit him like cold water. Emma stepped closer, her expression softer now, but no less firm. "If you want me to even consider this, you need to prove you're doing this for the right reasons, not out of fear, not out of desperation." She walked past him toward her old sedan parked at the far end of the lot. Daniel stood there on one knee in an empty parking lot, a billionaire who could buy anything except the one thing he needed most. For the first time in his adult life, money wasn't enough, and he had no idea what to do next. Daniel returned to the diner the next afternoon, not at their usual time, not with Lily, just him, standing at the counter where Emma was refilling sugar dispensers. She looked up when he approached, her expression guarded, but not hostile. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Somewhere private?" Emma gestured toward the empty booth in the far corner. They sat across from each other, the same table where Lily usually drew her pictures. Daniel had spent the entire night thinking about what Emma said, about fear and desperation, about doing things for the right reasons. "You were right," he said. "Last night. Everything you said was right." Emma folded her hands on the table, waiting. "I don't know how to do this," Daniel continued. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Be a father without using money to fix everything. I don't know how to be the person Lily needs." Emma's expression softened slightly, but she didn't offer easy comfort. "Then learn," she said simply. Daniel leaned forward. "How?" Emma took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "You want to marry me? Then prove you can be a father without your money. For 3 months you parent Lily like a normal dad. No nannies, no assistants, no shortcuts." A cold weight settled in Daniel's stomach. "What about, I'll spend time with both of you?" Emma cut him off. Her voice was firm now, not negotiating. "But I won't move in. I won't play pretend family. You need to figure out how to be her father first, not hire someone to be her mother." The words landed like a physical blow. Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but Emma wasn't finished. "And you need to deal with your grief, really deal with it, not bury it in work and convince yourself you're fine." Daniel sat back against the vinyl booth. Everything she was asking felt impossible. "What about us?" he asked. Emma's laugh was short, almost bitter. "There is no us yet. You don't even know me. And I don't know if I can trust a man who thinks love is a transaction." She stood up, smoothing down her apron. "You have until tomorrow to decide," she said. "If you agree to my terms, we'll start next week. If not, that's your answer." She walked back to the counter, leaving Daniel sitting alone in the booth where his daughter had started to heal. The first week was a disaster. Daniel woke up at 6 in the morning on Monday to make Lily breakfast. He'd dismissed the nanny the night before. 3 months, he'd told her. The pancakes burned. Smoke filled the kitchen, setting off the alarm. Lily stood in the doorway in her pajamas, watching him wave a dish towel at the smoke detector with confusion on her small face. They ended up eating cereal. Getting her to school should have been simple, but he couldn't find Lily's backpack, then her lunchbox. By the time they made it to the car, they were 20 minutes late. "Mr. Carter," Lily's teacher caught him on the way out. "We need Lily's lunch. She didn't bring one today." His face heated. "I'll bring it myself." That afternoon, Lily had a meltdown in the school parking lot. One moment she was walking toward the car. The next, she was sitting on the pavement refusing to move, tears streaming down her silent face. Other parents stared as they passed. Daniel crouched down next to his daughter, completely lost. "Lily, we need to go home," he tried. "Come on, baby, please." She wouldn't look at him, wouldn't move. Daniel ended up calling Emma at 2 in the morning. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice thick with sleep. "I can't do this," he said without preamble. His voice cracked on the last word. "I'm failing her. Everything I do is wrong." There was a long silence on the other end. Then Emma's voice came through, clearer now. "Good. Now you know how the rest of us feel every day. Keep going." She hung up before he could respond. By the end of the first week, Daniel felt like he'd aged 10 years. He'd burned 3 dinners, forgotten permission slips, arrived late twice. He was exhausted in a way that board meetings had never made him. But something strange was happening. Lily was watching him differently, not with careful distance, but with something that looked almost like curiosity. On Saturday evening, Emma showed up at his house with a grocery bag in her arms. "You're burning everything because you're trying too hard," she said. "Can I come in?" Lily was in the living room, drawing. She looked up when Emma entered, and her whole face brightened in a way Daniel hadn't seen in years. Emma taught him simple meals Lily would actually eat. Grilled cheese without burning it. Scrambled eggs that weren't rubbery. They ate dinner together at the kitchen table, something Daniel realized he and Lily rarely did. After dinner, Emma showed him how to give Lily a bath without it becoming a battle, how to read her a bedtime story without rushing through it. When Lily finally fell asleep, Emma and Daniel sat in the kitchen with cold coffee. "Why are you helping me?" Daniel asked. Emma traced the rim of her mug. "Because I see you trying. That's more than most men do." There was something in her voice that made Daniel think she was talking about more than just him. "Same time next week," she said. "And Daniel? Stop trying to be perfect. Just be present." The second week went better. Daniel still made mistakes, but they were smaller ones. He remembered the lunchbox. He got Lily to school on time 3 days out of 5. He learned which stories she liked at bedtime. Small victories. But they felt bigger than any business deal he'd ever closed. Emma came over twice that week. She showed him how to braid Lily's hair, how to pack a lunch, how to just sit with his daughter without trying to fix anything. On Friday evening, something shifted. Daniel was cleaning up after dinner when Lily came into the kitchen. She didn't say anything, just stood there holding her stuffed rabbit. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand. It was such a small gesture. But a weight lifted from Daniel's shoulders. Lily hadn't voluntarily touched him in months. They stood there in the kitchen, his daughter's small hand in his, and ice that had frozen around his heart began to thaw. That night, after Lily went to bed, Daniel sat alone in his study and cried for the first time since Sarah's funeral. He cried for his wife, for the fight they'd had that he could never take back. He cried for the 3 years he'd spent running from his grief. He cried for his daughter, who'd been healing without him, while he threw money at problems money couldn't solve. When he was finished, emptied out and exhausted, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not happiness exactly, but maybe the possibility of it. The third week, Emma brought Lily a small gift, just a set of watercolor paints. But the way his daughter's face lit up made Daniel realize he'd been giving her the wrong things all along. They painted together that afternoon, all 3 of them making a mess. Daniel got paint on his expensive shirt. Lily got it in her hair. Emma laughed, and the sound filled the house in a way it hadn't been filled in years. Later, Emma stayed to help clean up. "She drew you today," Daniel said, gesturing to one of Lily's paintings drying on the counter. "In the picture. With us." Emma looked at the painting. 3 figures, rough and childish but unmistakable. A family. "I know this isn't about us yet," Daniel said. "But Emma, I'm starting to see it. What you meant. About being present." Emma set down the brush she'd been cleaning. "Good. That's the point." They stood on opposite sides of the kitchen, the space between them full of things neither was ready to say. "I'm scared," Daniel admitted quietly, "of failing her again. Of failing you." Emma's expression softened. "Being scared doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you're doing something that actually matters." Then she told him about Marcus. They sat in the living room, the house quiet around them. Emma spoke slowly, carefully. She'd been a kindergarten teacher once. Then she met Marcus Reed, a successful lawyer who made her feel special at first. Then slowly convinced her that she was too emotional, too weak to handle a real career. "By the time I left, I didn't recognize myself," Emma said, staring at her hands. I quit teaching because he convinced me I wasn't good enough. Moved to this town to start over. Heat rose in Daniel's chest, sharp and protective. Emma. I'm telling you this, she cut him off, because I need you to understand. I swore I'd never depend on a man again. And now I'm scared I'm repeating the same mistake. She finally looked at him, her green eyes bright. But watching you with Lily these past few weeks, seeing you actually change, it's making me think maybe not all powerful men are the same. Daniel wanted to promise her he'd never be like Marcus, but he knew words weren't enough. He'd have to prove it. I'm not him, Daniel said, but I understand why you can't just trust that. Emma nodded slowly. The moment hung between them, fragile and important. Then his phone rang. Daniel glanced at the screen. His mother. He'd been avoiding her calls for weeks. After Emma left, Daniel answered. Margaret Carter's voice came through sharp and cold. Daniel, we need to talk about this situation you've gotten yourself into. He knew she meant Emma. There's nothing to talk about, Mother. Don't be naive, Margaret snapped. This woman is clearly after your money. I'm coming to town next week. Daniel hung up without responding, but the damage was done. The next morning, Daniel took Lily to Rosie's diner for breakfast. It was Saturday, and the place was busy. Emma was working, moving between tables with practiced efficiency. They just sat down when a man walked through the door that made Emma's entire body go rigid. Daniel noticed immediately. Noticed the way her shoulders tensed, the way her hand tightened around the coffee pot. The man was in his early 40s, wearing an expensive suit and an expression that Daniel recognized from countless boardrooms. Predatory. Self-satisfied. He walked straight to Emma, ignoring the other customers. Emma, he said, his voice carrying across the diner. I heard you were dating some rich guy now. Guess you finally found someone to take care of you. Marcus. It had to be. Emma's voice when she responded was carefully controlled. I take care of myself, Marcus. Marcus laughed. Emma, you're a waitress dating a billionaire. Don't kid yourself. He'll get bored and you'll be left with nothing. Again. Daniel started to stand, but Emma caught his eye and gave a tiny shake of her head. I think you should leave, Emma said quietly. Marcus looked around the diner, then back at her. Still so emotional. Some things never change. He left, but the poison was planted. Daniel could see it in Emma's face, in the way her hands shook slightly. Later that day, after Emma's shift ended, they sat in his car in the parking lot. Lily was at home with a babysitter. He's wrong, Daniel said. You know that, right? Emma stared out the window. Do I? Daniel, look at us. You're a billionaire CEO. I'm a waitress. This is exactly what Marcus said would happen. Until what? Daniel turned to face her. Until I control you? Until I make you small? Emma, that's not who I am. She looked at him finally, her eyes searching his face. How do I know that? Daniel reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. You don't know, he said honestly. Not yet. But I'm asking you to give me the chance to prove it. They sat there in the parking lot as the sun set, holding hands, both of them terrified of what came next. The following week, Margaret Carter arrived in town. She didn't announce her visit. Daniel came home to find his mother's car in his driveway, and his mother sitting in his living room. Hello, Daniel, she said, her voice cold. We need to talk about your little situation. That evening, while Lily was at a playdate, Margaret confronted Emma at the diner. Emma was wiping down tables when a woman in expensive clothes approached her. She knew immediately who it was. Ms. Ross, Margaret said without preamble, I'll be direct. You're not suitable for my son. Emma straightened, meeting the older woman's gaze. Nice to meet you too, Mrs. Carter. Margaret's smile was sharp. He's under stress, not thinking clearly. I'm sure we can come to an arrangement. She pulled out an envelope from her purse and set it on the table. That should cover any inconvenience, Margaret continued. You'll leave town quietly, and Daniel can get back to his real life. Emma picked up the envelope. For a moment, Margaret looked satisfied. Then Emma tore it in half without opening it. Your son is learning to be a real father, Emma said quietly. Maybe if you'd taught him love wasn't transactional, he wouldn't be in this mess. Margaret's face went cold. You'll regret this, Ms. Ross. I will not let you destroy my family's reputation or hurt my granddaughter. She left, but Emma knew this wasn't over. That night, Emma called Daniel and told him what happened. He was furious, but Emma could hear something else underneath. Fear. She's going to dig into your past, Daniel said. My mother doesn't make threats she can't back up. Emma felt cold settle in her stomach. She'd been running from her past for 3 years, but maybe it was finally time to stop running. 2 weeks later, the story broke. Emma was at work when her phone started exploding with notifications. Then Rosie came out of the back office with her tablet, her face pale. The headline was everywhere. Billionaire's unstable romance. Waitress with dark past. Target's grieving father. The article was full of half-truths and outright lies. Emma's marriage to Marcus twisted into a story where she was the unstable one. Her resignation from teaching, framed as a breakdown. Photos of her and Daniel made to look suspicious. Margaret had done exactly what she'd threatened. By noon, reporters were camped outside the diner. Emma called Daniel, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She tried 3 more times. Nothing. Then she got a text from an unknown number, a photo of Lily at school, surrounded by other parents, who were clearly talking about her. The message was clear. This isn't just hurting you. That afternoon, Emma drove to Daniel's house and found him in his study surrounded by lawyers and PR people. He looked up when she walked in, his face drawn and exhausted. Everyone out, he said. The room cleared. When they were alone, Emma spoke first. I can't do this, she said. The words hurt coming out. Not to Lily. She's regressing because of me. Your mother's right. I don't belong in your life. Daniel crossed the room. Emma, Lily needs stability, not scandal, Emma continued. She was crying now, but her voice stayed steady. You asked me to help you be a better father. I did. Now let me go. She walked out before he could respond, got in her car, drove away while reporters shouted questions she didn't answer. That night, Emma blocked Daniel's number, changed her shifts at the diner, moved into the tiny apartment above the restaurant. She'd spent 3 months watching Daniel become the father Lily needed. Now it was time for her to do what was best for that little girl, even if it destroyed her in the process. 3 days later, Daniel sat in Lily's room while his daughter refused to eat, refused to sleep, refused to speak. She'd drawn a picture of Emma with a big red X through it, then cried so hard she'd made herself sick. Dr. Steinberg came to the house. She sat with Lily for an hour, then came downstairs. She's regressing, the therapist said. Badly. She's blaming herself for Emma leaving. Daniel put his head in his hands. I don't know what to do. You fight, Dr. Steinberg said simply. You show your daughter that love is worth fighting for. That night, Daniel finally got Lily to talk. She sat on her bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit, tears streaming down her small face. I don't need you to be rich, Daddy, she said, her voice breaking. I need you to be here, and I need Emma. She makes you smile. She makes me smile. Why did you let her go? Her words crashed into him with the force of truth. He'd let fear win again. Just like with Sarah, he pulled Lily into his arms and made her a promise. I'm going to fix this, baby. I promise. The next morning, Daniel called his mother. You're right, he said when she answered. Emma doesn't belong in your world. But I don't either anymore. I'm stepping down as CEO. I'm choosing my daughter. And if Emma will have me, I'm choosing her. There was a long silence. You'd throw away everything? Margaret finally said. No, Daniel replied. I'm finally keeping what matters. He hung up and started making calls. It was time to stop letting other people write his story. Daniel's first call was to Marcus Reed's office. It took 3 assistants and 40 minutes before Marcus finally picked up. Mr. Carter, Marcus said, his voice smooth. To what do I owe the pleasure? Daniel kept his tone level. You destroyed Emma's reputation to control her. That ends now. Marcus laughed. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, you do, Daniel replied. The rumors after your divorce, the lies about her being unstable. I have lawyers pulling records right now. You're going to publicly retract every lie, or I'll bury you legally. The line went quiet. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had lost its smoothness. You think you're different from me? You're just another rich guy trying to own her. No, Daniel said. I'm the guy who's going to spend his life proving she owns herself. He hung up before Marcus could respond. 3 days later, Daniel held a press conference, not at his office, at Rosie's Diner, the place where everything started. Reporters packed the small restaurant. Emma watched from the kitchen, Rosie standing beside her with one hand on her shoulder. Daniel stood behind the counter. No podium, no prepared remarks. Just him and the truth. My name is Daniel Carter, he began. And everything you've read about Emma Ross is a lie. He talked about how they met, about Lily's struggles, about how Emma had helped his daughter heal when no amount of money could. He talked about his mother's interference, about the manufactured scandal, about the envelope full of cash meant to make Emma disappear. Emma Ross is the most honest, strong person I know, Daniel said, his voice steady. She doesn't need me to defend her. She's been defending herself her entire life. I'm here to tell the truth. And the truth is that she made me want to be a better father, a better man. Not because she needed me to be, but because she showed me what that actually looks like. He looked directly at the camera. My mother tried to destroy Emma to protect me, but Emma doesn't need protection from me. I need to earn her trust, and I will spend however long it takes doing exactly that. By that evening, Marcus Reed's lawyer had issued a public statement retracting all previous claims about Emma's mental state. Brief, legal, and clearly coerced. But it was public record now. Emma read it in her apartment above the diner. Her phone had been ringing all day. She'd ignored them all, but she couldn't ignore what Daniel had done. Couldn't ignore the fact that he'd put his reputation, his family, his entire life on the line for her. Rosie knocked on her door around 9 that night, holding up her phone. You watching this? Emma took it. The video was from the press conference. She'd avoided watching it before, but now she listened to every word. When it ended, Rosie sat beside her. That man just destroyed his relationship with his mother for you, Rosie said quietly. Not many would do that. Emma stared at the paused video. But what if I'm not strong enough? What if I fall back into— Honey, Rosie interrupted gently. You left an abusive marriage with nothing and built yourself back up. You're the strongest person I know. The question isn't whether you're strong enough. It's whether you're brave enough to try again. The next morning, Emma found an envelope slipped under her door. Not money this time. A letter, written in a child's handwriting. Dear Emma, it read. Daddy says I should tell you how I feel. I feel sad without you. You make me feel safe. I drew you a picture. It's us as a family. Will you come back? Love, Lily. Below the words was a drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. At the bottom, in smaller letters, P.S. Daddy cries at night, but says he's okay. He's not. Emma sat on her apartment floor holding the letter and cried. Not from sadness this time, from something that felt like hope trying to break through fear. She drove to Daniel's house that afternoon. The reporters were gone now. She parked in the driveway and sat there for 5 minutes, gathering courage. Daniel answered the door looking like he hadn't slept in days. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were red. When he saw her, he froze. "Emma." She held up Lily's letter. "Your daughter sent me this." Daniel's face crumpled slightly. "She's been asking for you every day. I told her I was trying. I didn't know if you'd—" "Can I come in?" Emma interrupted. He stepped aside immediately. The house was quieter than she remembered. "Where's Lily?" Emma asked. "At Dr. Steinberg's. Emergency session. She's not doing well?" Emma nodded slowly. She knew this was partly her fault. "I'm not here because of the press conference," Emma said. She needed Daniel to understand this. Or the grand gestures. Daniel waited, his expression careful. "I'm here because your daughter asked me to come back," Emma continued, "and because I think I'm finally ready to be brave again." Something shifted in Daniel's face, relief and fear mixed together. "Emma, I can't promise I won't mess this up," he said. "I can't promise I'll always get it right." "I know," Emma replied, "but I'd rather watch you try than walk away because I'm scared." They stood in his foyer, the space between them full of 3 months of growth and pain and tentative trust. "I'm terrified," Emma admitted, "of being controlled again, of losing myself." Daniel nodded. "I'm terrified too, of failing you, of failing Lily. But I'd rather fail trying than never try at all." Emma stepped closer. "This won't be easy." "I don't want easy," Daniel said. "I want real." That night, they picked up Lily from Dr. Steinberg's office together. The little girl saw Emma through the waiting room window, and her entire face lit up. She ran to Emma the moment they opened the door, wrapping her small arms around Emma's waist and holding on like she might disappear again. "You came back," Lily whispered. Emma knelt down so they were eye level. "I'm sorry I left. I was scared. But I'm here now." Lily looked between Emma and her father. "Are you staying?" Emma glanced at Daniel, then back at the little girl. "If you'll have me. But we're going to do this slowly, okay? We're going to mess up sometimes. No perfect family act." Lily nodded seriously. "Daddy burns dinner a lot." Despite everything, Emma laughed. Daniel did too, the sound rusty but genuine. One evening a week later, after Lily fell asleep, Daniel and Emma sat on his back porch watching the stars. "I have one condition," Emma said suddenly. Daniel turned to look at her. "Anything. We do this slow. We mess up. We talk about it. No perfect family act. No pretending everything is fine when it's not." Daniel reached for her hand. "Deal." Emma looked at their intertwined fingers. "Then ask me again." Daniel understood immediately. He didn't get down on one knee this time, just held her hand and looked at her directly. "Emma Ross, I'm not asking you to save me anymore. I'm asking if you'll build something with me, as equals. No shortcuts, no transactions. Just us, figuring it out together." Emma felt tears slide down her face, but she was smiling. "Yes." 6 months later, they got married at Rosie's diner. No press, no elaborate ceremony, just close friends and family. Rosie catered. Lily was the flower girl, wearing a yellow dress she'd picked out herself. Margaret Carter didn't come. Daniel had invited her, but she'd sent a cold refusal. He'd made his peace with it. Some bridges burned for good reasons. Lily stood between Daniel and Emma during the simple ceremony, holding both their hands. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Lily spoke up in her clear, small voice. "I want to say something." The officiant smiled. "Go ahead, sweetheart." Lily looked up at Emma. "Emma said I can call her Mom when I'm ready. I think I'm ready." Emma's vision blurred with tears. She knelt down so she was eye level with the little girl who'd changed everything. "Only if you want to," Emma said softly. "No pressure." Lily threw her arms around Emma's neck. "I want to." Daniel watched his daughter and the woman he loved embrace, and felt something he hadn't felt since before Sarah died. Complete. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was real. After the ceremony, they took photos in front of the diner, the same place where Daniel had once knelt on a parking lot and proposed out of fear. The same place where Emma had learned that not all powerful men were the same. The same place where Lily had started to heal. That evening, the three of them went to the park. Lily ran ahead to the swings, her yellow dress bright in the fading light. "Will you push me?" she called back. Emma smiled. "Only if Daddy catches you." Daniel moved to stand behind the swing. "Always." They stayed until the sun set, an imperfect family learning to be whole. Lily's laughter carried across the empty park. Emma leaned against Daniel's shoulder while they watched their daughter play. Just them. Just real. Just enough. "What are you thinking?" Daniel asked quietly. Emma watched Lily swing higher, her small face bright with joy. "That love isn't about finding someone to complete you," Emma said. "It's about finding someone who reminds you that you were always whole. You just forgot for a while." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "I like that." They stayed until the stars came out, and Lily finally wore herself out. They drove home together, the three of them, to the house that was becoming theirs. Not perfect. Not a fairy tale. Just real. Just enough. Just right.